With us here on the JAKIB Media new logo we got there. JAKIB Media YouTube channel. You got your Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365, John McMullen and Jody McDonald. Other than the the Sixers just getting their rear ends handed to them in Boston yesterday. How was your weekend, Johnny Mac?
Yeah, was as good as can be expected. I didn't think it'd be that bad, but I wasn't expecting the Sixers to go up and win Game 7. You'd like to have a little bit more fights, but it is what it is, and that's one of the reasons we're here, Jody. Turn the page, get the fans off the pathetic performance. I don't know how other way to describe it, but that was not a championship level performance. Let's put it that way.
Ugliness is what it was, getting their heads handed to them. The only intrigue is how many hours until we hear officially that Doc Rivers is no longer the coach of the 76ers.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that's going to happen in the next day or so. And I do expect it to happen. Sorry, Doc. I think he's out.
And by the way, I think it was John Machota. He brought it up. Now, it's a cliche in all sports. You can have the best coaches. I'll take the best talent. It's players first. I said that in the Super Bowl, even more so in that game. Look, Doc, I agree with you. He's going to get fired, and somebody's got to pay. You can't fire all the players. But man, it starts with the big guy in the middle. People need to have some really, really difficult discussions. I've been talking about this for years, and I think they finally understand that now. I'm one of those people, and I'll relate it to football because we're a football show. You've probably heard me say it numerous times, Jody. I hate when people say so-and-so can't win a championship in football. So-and-so can't win a championship. Because I don't believe that. A lot of things have to fall into place, but we've seen it time and time again where, especially at the quarterback position, certain guys win championships that you never thought would win a championship. But everything's got to be perfect around them. I'm not saying Joel Embiid can't win a championship, because he certainly can. He's one of the best players in basketball. But they can't win a championship the way they play, and that's building an offense around a guy. In the modern NBA, who wins? You can go back to Kawhi Leonard beating the Sixers, Trae Young, Jimmy Butler. Yesterday, it's Jason Tatum. It's a win guys league now. You need creators to close games. This isn't the 1970s, the 1980s, where you dump it. And by the way, you can't dump it into the big guy anyway, because he wants to be a wing player. And they put Marcus Smart on him, and he's getting pushed out 16 feet away from the basket. That's all I'm saying.
I think you can win with Joel Embiid. I think you can win with him being the number one option. He can't be the only option, as you correctly stated. To undersell how important wing players and athleticism is in the NBA, you'd be making a massive mistake. Joel can still be your number one option, but he can't be your when in doubt, we're going to give it to him.
Let me describe it like this, Jody.
Option, which the Sixers did way too much this year.
Forget number one, forget number two. Let me put it this way. He can't be the closer. So however you want to manipulate it, when it's a tie game late, he can't be the closer. That's where you need the creator. That's where you need the guy to step up, as Jason Tatum did in Game 6. That's what they're missing. Kawhi Leonard, again, Trae Young, again, Jimmy Butler, again and again and again and again. You need the closer, and the closer has to be the creator. You could say back in the day, even Kobe, Shaq. Kobe was the closer. You could argue Shaq was the guy, but Kobe was the closer. They need the closer. They can't play the way they play. That's what I'm saying. He can be the number one guy, play into his ego, manipulate him, but he can't be the closer. Can't win that way.
We definitely found out that James Harden is not the closer this playoff run. Sorry, but the Sixers certainly need to go in another direction there. All right, yeah, we are Birds 365. So that is the main topic of conversation each time we do the show. We got two good guests, two Eagles guys to hop on with us. Les Bowen and Jeff Kerr will both be aboard. Johnny Mac, keeping my eye on the football wire this weekend. We're not lamenting the Sixers' chances and then the Sixers' fate thereafter. Couple of signings around the league. No real move the needle type names. Guys, oh, wow, that's a major addition. No, it's kind of fill in the blank, to use Howie Roseman's one of his new favorite terms. Lottery ticket type guys that you're not paying a whole hell of a lot of money to, but you're hoping they can give you more than just what you'd expect out of someone making the veteran NFL minimum. But this is the time of year where you do see some signings because the draft is come and gone. Teams have signed their undrafted free agents. Their overall 90-man roster is where it is. Probably pretty close to 90. Eagles right now, I believe, sit at 86. So they've got some wiggle room and the ability to add. And again, no major names dropping this past weekend, but recognizable names in some spots. Eagles signed no one. And I'm not saying that because I'm shocked that they signed no one. But like I said, this is the time of year where if there is a blank to be filled in, a lottery ticket to be taken, maybe you're looking for all teams to do that with at least one or two guys. Eagles haven't done any. Does that signify to you that they're 100% okay with where their roster is at this stage of the year?
No, Howie's never won, and he says it. I mean, again, there's certain times when Howie tells the truth, and he'll say talent acquisition season goes far beyond free agency, the draft. Now it slows down. Those are the main crux. Those are the main addition points, but he's proven it time and time again. From his standpoint, it goes right up to the trade deadline. That's talent acquisition season. And he did it last year and really, he found a new avenue, if you think about it, when he brought in Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh late in the process. That's sort of a new ring shopping, I like to call it, formula. If you're a good team, maybe convince these guys who don't want to play. In both of their case, they made a ton of money. They weren't going to play for the league minimum. Go through all the rigmarole of training camp and off season and all the grind and say, hey, you want to come in and make a run in November and try to get a ring? And they both said, yeah, why not? And it worked out pretty well. Obviously, they didn't accomplish the ultimate goal, but those guys were contributors and they had a very good team. You want to rewind, you go to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on August 30th. You want to rewind. It's happened in the past with Ronald Darby. May signings, LeGarrette Blount, back in the day. They did add Dan Arnold as one of those guys. And they still have a couple roster spots, and I expect them to sign some tryout guys, probably today, to be honest, because they're back in the building. So they'll probably make it clear if they're signing any of those tryout guys. And then June 1st, obviously, because you're going to have cuts. You already saw it. We've been talking about Zadarius Smith got traded. Well, everybody knew he was out in Minnesota, but they were hanging on, trying to get something for him. They were able to get a couple day 3 picks, really more, moving up in the draft than anything else. But Dalvin Cook, he's another one, same team. He's gone. It's just a matter of when. So, no, he's not done. And the most, off-ball linebacker the most obvious spot. I think they're going to add a body there. And yeah, he's always looking. Always.
Let me ask you about a name you just threw out there. And certainly he was, at least in some media corners, attached to the Philadelphia Eagles. And that is the running back from the Minnesota Vikings. You say he's gone. Why? Why would he be gone? I understand in free agency when you want to clear cap space to be able to upgrade another position. That makes a lot of sense, that if you've got a guy who, in your estimation, and you gave him the contract, but you miscalculated, and he is now too expensive, and it isn't worth the squeeze anymore. I understand all that, but we are now well into May, halfway through May, and your roster it's never completely done, but the majority of it is done. Why would you cut Dalvin Cook? Why would you take nothing in exchange for him? If you're getting something, again, that too makes sense. A draft pick. Well, the draft is come and gone, so you're not going to be able to cash that pick for 11 months. You're just playing with a lesser team. I don't think anyone will argue Dalvin Cook is still a very good player. Might not be worth what his salary says he's supposed to be worth, but a very good player. You're under the cap. You've done most of your offseason salary work, not like you're going to be adding another big-time player, big-time salary. Why would you just cut Dalvin Cook?
One, because they need the money.
Need the money for what?
To sign their rookie class. They can't even sign their first-round pick right now. Well, now they can after they signed Zadarius Smith, but they need more maneuvering room. You mentioned he signed the contract. No, they have a new general manager. He didn't sign the contract. And they have a new age general manager in Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. Who's Kwesi Adofo-Mensah? Well, he learned under Andrew Berry, who we know very well here, who learned under Howie Roseman. He does not believe in paying large sums to running backs, especially running backs who, as you mentioned, he's still a very good player, but he's touched the football a ton. He's got chronic shoulder injuries. It's probably not going to get better at this stage. And he's holding them on because he can hold them on, and he's waiting for somebody to give him something. And if he doesn't give them something, he's going to cut him. They already made their declarations known. And this is where I give Howie Roseman the credit over the young GMs. They declare. Brad Holmes, he declared, so everybody knows. And in this case, Kwesi declared. Everybody knows. So he's probably not going to get anything. And ultimately, he's got to release him. I go to Ryan Poles all the time. You know, Ryan was on in Chicago last week, basically admitting what I said on this show. Couldn't take Jalen Carter. Doesn't have the foundation to do it. Can't make that move. Howie takes advantage of these young general managers.
Then Howie screwed up if that's the case. If you knew and Ryan Poles knew that Carter was not going to Chicago, why'd they give up any draft pick to move up and get him?
Because they were concerned about somebody else. They were taking it off the board. And you throw the young GM a little bone, a fourth round meaningless pick, and he feels good about himself, and you call him back again and you fleece him down the road.
So let me get this straight. A fourth round pick is meaningless, but a third round pick you wouldn't give up for Patrick Queen.
A fourth round pick is meaningless for the Eagles. They value day two premium picks, first, second, third round picks a lot more than
that's where the dividing line is, because we changed line. A third round pick is tremendous value, and a fourth round pick is meaningless.
It is clear. Look, you have to delineate, right? You have to delineate that they value. You can disagree with them. They value premium picks, yes, more than day three picks. I don't think they're on the weird page that nobody else is. Now, you could argue what's the difference between 32 and 33? Really nothing, but one's a first round pick, not this year because they had 31. This year you get my point, because of Miami. But what's the difference between 32 and 33? Not much, other than
there's a bigger difference between 32 and 33.
All right, 64 and
66 and 97.
64 and 65, 96. My point is, what's the difference between a first and second round pick? What's the difference between a second, third round pick? And context is everything. 96 is not that different from 97. But one's, it's a demarcation line. Their demarcation line is they'll give up day three picks. Day two picks at a position they don't value. They might give up a day two pick, but it's going to be in a position they value. It's not going to be in a position they don't value. It's always the situation, but they don't. I mean, I don't know how they can make it more evident that they don't value that position.
Yeah, see, this is one of the main differences between John McMullen and Jody McDonald. I question the Eagles. I don't just accept because they do their business that way, they're right. You seem to do that they don't value it, so therefore that's the way it is. Oh, just because they do it doesn't mean that I can't sit here and say I
disagree with it. You're assuming
third round pick and a fourth. There's a much bigger difference between a first round pick and a second round pick. Then there comes the difference between a second and a third, then third and fourth. And with every round you move down, it becomes lesser. But I don't know what the big difference is between third and fourth. That is something I'm just having trouble comprehending, that because they do it on a different day of the draft, it's 10 picks, it's 12 picks, 16 picks, whatever it is. The further away you get away from the number one pick, the less the value just has to drop. I don't understand why there's such a, according to you, in evaluating the Eagles and your inside information and your beliefs of the Eagles system, why it's such a hard and fast line between days.
I didn't say it was a hard and fast line. And in fact, if you rewind, I said it's always about the situation. And I brought up off-ball linebacker. Then the second part is, like, we just disagree on the value of the player. You think Patrick Queen is this star player. I don't think he's a star player. So that's another part of it.
Now, if you're talking situation, we're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles and their need a linebacker. We're talking about a very specific player for a very specific team who has, in my estimation, a major need at that position.
But okay, so you're saying because they have a need at that position, which we both agree with. And in fact, when you say I always agree with the Eagles, I say all the time, look, they've taken it too far at off-ball linebacker. I have no problem saying when I agree with the Eagles, when I disagree with the Eagles. Now, with this particular player at this particular position, here's where you and I differ. And here's where you get in trouble, in my opinion, when you're roster building. All right, you have a need at this position. All right, that doesn't mean I'm just going to take a player I don't really think is that good because I have a need at this position. Would he be the best linebacker on this team right now? Yeah. The day he stepped in, yes. The day he walked into the building. Now, I assume that Kobe Dean's going to become better very quickly. So that's number one. I do have confidence in Kobe Dean. The organization probably has more confidence in Kobe Dean than I do. And Jody McDonald has probably more confidence in Kobe Dean than I do and the Eagles do. So
yes,
that's baked into it, number one. Number two is the fact that that's when you get in trouble, whether it's the draft, whether it's trade. When you start reaching for stuff because I need this, I need this, I need this, I need that. You know, what the Eagles did well last year.
You know what the Eagles needed last year was a superstar wide receiver, and they went out and got him one. So sometimes filling a need is exactly what you need to do.
Yeah, but think again, and you want to give the Eagles credit for that. I'll take it back. I'll go in the opposite direction. Guess what? They wanted Calvin Ridley. Guess what? They wanted Christian Kirk.
There's a little luck involved. You're
right
about
Allen Robinson. They wanted Allen Robinson. So I'm not giving the Eagles flowers. They happen to luck out. They struck out. They struck out. They struck out. And they happen to hit a home run later in the process. At safety, Jody, they did the same thing with Marcus Williams. They looked into Tyrann Mathieu. There was a third, Justin Reed. I always get Justin and I think it was Justin Reed. I always get their first names mixed up. They looked into all those players. They couldn't get it done. August 30th, they say, all right, let's call Mickey Loomis. Let's fleece him and try to get a year out of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Look, they're going to be patient and they're going to get something that they value. They might be wrong, but I agree with the patience part. I'm not reaching, and maybe they like Patrick Queen as much as you do. I have no idea that they don't like Patrick Queen. That's my guess. That's my speculation. And they certainly don't like him enough. And this doesn't even really have to do with Patrick McQueen. I just saw them let TJ Edwards walk. for $6.5 million. That's too much. They're not giving up a day 2 pick. That's where my speculation comes from. They're not giving up a day 2 pick for an average linebacker. They're just not doing it.
Yeah, I think he's above average, and I think they need him, and I think it would be a well-spent third-round pick if they could get their hands on a guy. Something the Eagles have shown and did show specifically last year. They'll acquire guys on the last year of their contract. And worst case scenario, if they walk out the door thereafter, the guy becomes a potential compensation pick the year after that. So if you want to go by track record, Howie's shown a track record, Kaiser White, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to either trade for or sign free agents who have only 1 year to go on their contract, and then let them fall into the compensation department. And that's exactly what Patrick Queen would do. That's why I don't think a third-round draft pick would be an overpay. He's McMullen. I'm McDonald. We are the Birds 365 guys. I see on deck in our waiting room. We got Les Bowen jumping aboard. He joins us next year on Birds 365.